Hi FlossTube, my name's Jody and I'm Trixie Tricycle here on YouTube and also on Instagram, and I'm also the owner and dyer of Cedar River Linen. So today I haven't made a video in a very long time. Things may look a little bit different, and it's because the battery on my old video camera has finally died. So I was all set up, ready to film like I normally do, and no battery. Camera won't turn on. So I'm recording on my laptop and I haven't done this before, and so this is going to be a little bit of an experiment and we're just going to go with it. So today is Saturday, September 21st, and I think that means it's the first day of autumn in the northern hemisphere. And it feels a little bit like it. It's still reasonably warm in Seattle, but it is feeling fallish. And so today I wanted to do a shop update to begin with for the linen shop. And if you want to fast forward and try to find where I'm just showing stitching, that's fine. I don't know where that's going to be. And normally I would be able to edit and put in a timestamp right here. But since I have no idea how this is going to end up looking or uploading or any of that, I would say just scroll forward. Hopefully I won't talk too long about the shop. First of all, thank anybody and everybody who has ordered linen either from me or who has purchased it in person at one of the 3 shops that we're now working with wholesale, and that is the Attic in Mesa, Arizona, Acorns and Threads in Portland, Oregon, and Hobby House in Pittsford, New York. This year we're doing just kind of a trial to see if we can keep up with those 3 shops wholesale order requests and to see where our capacity is at. So I would like to offer wholesale to other shops, and we're looking at doing that in 2025, but I just have to be mindful of how quickly I'm growing. It's not, it's still a home-based, business. You want up? Huh? You want up? You want to hop? Oh, good boy. Okay. So I just don't want to get, I don't want to get overwhelmed, and I don't want to overpromise for shops that might be depending on us to fulfill orders, and then we're not doing it in a timely way. And so this is, again, just kind of a pilot program, but so you are able to now contact any of those 3 shops, and depending on how much stock they have, they can, ship it directly to you. But you can also still order directly from my shop, which is cedarriverlinen.com. I sell it's a Zweigart based linen. We've currently got 8 colors in the shop, and we do sell Aida in addition to linen. And so I've got 28, 32, 36, 40, 46, and 56 count linen in each color, and then 18 and 20 count Aida. I don't have Lugana or any of the other thread counts of Aida at this time, but it's a pretty wide spectrum of availability. So the most important thing to me when selecting and introducing new colors is whether or not I can replicate it, and whether or not I can create a consistent palette across all of the thread counts. And so it takes me a while to sort of settle on the formula, on the dye formulas for new colors, but we do have 3 new colors that are coming out on Monday. So that would be this Monday, September 23rd at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So that's where I live. And first of all, I'm just going to go back and show you the current colors that we have in our currently in the shop, and the colors that you can get at the Attic, Acorns and Threads, and Hobby House currently. The new colors, the 3 new colors, I'm going to be keeping exclusively in-house for the first 3 months, and there's a couple reasons that I do that, but one of them is that when I start going through large quantities of fabric to dye and to get out in shipping orders, I will discover if there are any issues, inconsistencies. Sometimes dye is a clever foe, and it likes to it likes to turn colors that I didn't plan on it turning. So, you know, we've done full thread count, you know, tests across the thread counts to make sure that it's reasonably consistent before we announce the colors. But sometimes we encounter problems, and I don't want the shops to have to deal with that as we're also trying to navigate through just our own processes and getting those new colors out. So the existing colors that we've got, this is our lightest color, and this is called Albarium. Albarium is just it's almost white, but it's just got a little bit, it's almost like if you just took it and dunked it in tea for, you know, a minute. And so it's just slightly off white, and it's more kind of a plaster or a putty type color. And that's why Albarium is an old type of plaster or stucco. And that's kind of what this color reminds me of. So when I'm showing some of the other fabric colors, I may end up showing you next to Albarium, because a lot of you are familiar with this color and have ordered it. And so you can kind of see what it looks like. These, this is a piece of, and I wanted to show you too the different thread counts in the same color. So this piece on the front here is a 36 count, and this is 40 count. So I'm just trying to highlight the, you know, our goal is to keep it consistent across the thread counts, and so hopefully that's what we're able to do. Another pretty common color that lots of you have ordered, and so you'd be familiar with, is Overcast. So again, it's 40 count on the front, and this is 36 count. And this is just a very, this is the most neutral. You'll see when I'm showing my stitching today that this is about, this is probably the most common color that I use personally. So it's just a very neutral, blends into the background just so that it can highlight your stitching. So next to Albarium, it's just a slightly darker color. This is Tephra. Tephra is one of our kind of medium neutrals. This is a piece of, on the front is 46 count, and this is 36 count. Tephra has kind of a sort of an aged neutral, and it's got a little bit of green that runs through it a little bit. And some people, depending on the light and the color quality on your movie box, whatever you're watching this on, it's notoriously difficult to film and photograph color. And everything's out the window right now because I have no idea what this is going to end up looking like on camera. I hope it's pretty accurate. It's looking decently accurate as I look at it in the camera. But that's why it's also nice for you to be able to go into the shops and see it in person now. The two most vibrant colors, and these have been in the shop since the beginning. This is Arboreal, and this is a piece of 36 count and a piece of 46 count. So again, we're just trying to keep it as consistent as possible across the thread counts. It's difficult because thread counts act almost like texture on a wall. And so if you can imagine, if you take a bucket of paint and you paint a very smooth wall with no texture on it, and then right next to it, you paint the same exact color onto a wall that has texture, they're gonna look a little different. And it's the same thing. The texture of the textile, depending on the thread count, is either gonna be smoother in the case of a higher thread count like 46 or 56. And then as you get into the lower thread counts, 28, 32, it's just gonna have a lot more, you know, movement and depth. And so they're gonna look and reflect light just a little bit differently. So That's Arboreal. And I'm gonna, some people are a little, I notice that when I'm in the shops that have purchased fabric, that there will be, you know, everybody loves sampler colors, they'll grab those. And this is from everyone. And but more pigmented fabrics like this are difficult to imagine using, and people are a little nervous about that. And so I'll show a couple of different patterns that I'm working on that are using darker colors, and I know there are a lot of people out there who are stitching peacock, unicorn, and badger on Arboreal, and that's actually 2 years ago when I was testing fabrics and getting ready to launch the shop. That chart was the specific reason why I worked so hard to get that green. And I'll show you that in a little bit, although I may end up restarting my peacock, unicorn, badger. I'm not sure yet. This is Red Cedar. Red Cedar is it's kind of a barn red. It's got a little bit of warm tone to it. This is a piece of 20 count Aida, and this is 32 count linen. So again, we're just working on, you know, trying to have continuity of color. Just like Arboreal, people are a little gun shy when it comes to using this, but it's a pretty versatile fabric. So then in February, and I didn't make a video after this, but everybody has been amazing about it, and they're very popular colors. We introduced 3 new colors earlier this year. So in February, the lightest new neutral was it's called Spindrift. Now Spindrift is just a little bit darker than Albarium. So you can see there's a slight difference. It just gives a little bit more depth. And then when you look at Overcast, Overcast is one more step kind of in that gradient. So hang on a minute. So these are the 3. You've got Arboreal here, Spindrift in the middle, and then Overcast on the end. So they're blowing out just a little bit in the camera and with my lights, but you can see that they're slightly different. And when you start getting into, you know, what people want in sampler colors, sometimes that adjusts, you know, the gradient is going to be very subtle. The second color that we introduced in February is called Coffee Stain. So like Tephra, this is one of our kind of medium to dark neutrals. It's maybe reading a little green in the camera, and it really is not green. It's brown. So we've got, I think this is 36 count, and this is a piece of 46 count. So that's Coffee Stain. And again, these are all available in my shop, and they're available for those 3 retail stores to order if they don't already have them in stock. And then this is the last. This is called Maple Bar, and this one it's really not showing very well. This is kind of it's like a warmer, kind of a like brioche color with some variegation in it. This is the color that Beth Twist and Teresa Kogut just used for their kit project for the Pacific Northwest Stitch Summit. So that was very nice of them to do that, and very exciting. It's a super cute project, and I think a few other people have shown it on their, I just watched Lisa, Kindred Stitcher, and she shared that on her FlossTube. So the 3 new colors that I have, you can kind of see them here. The first color is a cool beige neutral and is called Saltash. So it's definitely in the cooler range. It's not blue, It's not necessarily green, but it is just a neutral, cool beige. And some of you reached out and asked about this. This is 32 count, and then I just grabbed a piece of 56 count also so that you could see the difference in the texture. So if I'm wearing kind of a tan sweater, this is, you know, you can see that it's a more cool neutral. When I came up with the name for Salt Ash, you know, we use salt soda ash. There's some different chemicals that go into, or minerals that go into dyeing fabric. And so I was thinking of calling it salt and ash, but that's, there are a few stores and other kind of soap boutiques and things. So I started just looking at that color, or looking for color names that were sort of in that vein. And there's a little town in the UK that's, it's a little, I guess, like, I think it's on water, so it's kind of a maritime little town, and it's called Salt Ash. And the little nickname on Wikipedia, and I'm not sure if this is true or if people from there really refer to it as that, but they call it the gateway to Cornwall. And Nicola from Hobby House, she showed my fabric on her channel a while back, and that was right after we had launched the 3 Spindrift and Maple Bar and Coffee Stain. So she had ordered some fabric from us, and she asked if we were going to be having any kind of a, you know, sort of a cool beige like this in the pipeline. And we were. I was already working on this color. It just kind of expedited it a little bit for us. And so I thought maybe a little nod to where Nicola lives might be sort of nice. Anyway, so Salt Ash, Gateway to Cornwall. The next one is called Scrimshaw. Scrimshaw is just a very soft ivory bone color. And Scrimshaw, just if you're not familiar with that term, I guess it has kind of a Dutch, they believe that it's sort of a Dutch etymology. And Scrimshaw is named that, so whalers, fishermen, people used to take whalebone, walrus tusk, and they would carve little tiny, you know, nautical scenes or animals or whatever, and they would end up being like the handle of a knife. And so you could still buy Scrimshaw jewelry and tools. It's still, you know, kind of a common crafts artisan type activity. But I thought the interesting thing about it is that Scrimshaw actually translated to wasting time. So it's kind of like twiddling your fingers in a way, but you know, when they were sitting around and they were waiting for fishing or whatever they needed to do, and they would carve on these little bones. Anyway, this color kind of reminded me of that really soft, almost aged antique ivory bone color that you might find on a piece of like a little Scrimshaw pocket knife handle. So that's this color. And the last one is, again, it's a cooler tone, but this is more of a cool gold tone. So if Maple Bar is kind of a honey blonde, this would be more of an ash blonde slash aged gold. And I'm calling it pyrite. Now, pyrite is a mineral also known as fool's gold. And so when you see it out in the wild, there's a vast sort of spectrum of pyrite and its different forms and what it's used for. But some of the pictures of just the pyrite mineral crystals. They look just a little more kind of green gold rather than that warm yellow gold that real gold actually is. So anyway, this is pyrite, and this is I believe this is 20 count Ada. This is 40 count, and then 46 count. And again, it's showing a little light green, and that's not really how it looks, but compared to Maple Bar, which is sort of the other, it's about the same depth. It's gonna look exactly the same in this camera. Yeah, they're close cousins, but they are not the same. In person, you're gonna see that there is it's definitely leans a lot cooler than Maple Bar. Maple Bar leans a little warmer. So those will all be available Monday on my website, cedarriverlinen.com at 9 a.m. Now we will be shipping in the order that we ship in the sequence that orders are placed. But the only time something is going to be sold out or listed as sold out on the website is if I don't have that thread count in-house. So I don't usually post I won't post more 46 count on the website, for example, than I actually have in-house to be able to dye and to ship out. That said, it's still going to take between 4 and 5 weeks from the time that you order it until we ship it. We like to keep that window reasonably wide so that you know how to plan for your projects, and also we have time in case something comes up or there's a problem, that we're not promising a faster shipping date than what we can actually deliver. So that said, sometimes we are able to kind of get ahead of things and get those orders out sooner. A couple of little housekeeping things on the website itself. A few times I've had folks order accidentally 28 count linen when they meant to order a different thread count. And the reason that happens, I think, is because if you go into the website, it's a Shopify store. There's only 2 categories really. There's shop linen, shop Ada, and when you go into shop linen, you can select the color, and once you select the color, you can select the thread count, and the default thread count is 28. That's where it starts. So you got to select your thread count, and then you can select the cut size, whether it's stitcher's quarter, stitcher's half, or stitcher's full. So just make sure that you double check before you add it to your cart that you have selected the right thread count. And it does sometimes, it's a little hard, especially on a phone. If you make a mistake and you accidentally order the wrong thread count or something else, just send a quick email, and you can send it to info@Cedar River Linen, or you can send it to Jody at Cedar River Linen, and either of those will get to me directly, and I can easily make that change. So don't worry about that, but just sort of take a quick look before you click it, the add to cart, and make sure that you pick the right thread count. 56 count. So we had a price increase with the 56 count on the website because it has gone up, and for us specifically, and I'm considering, and I'm not going to add it yet, but I am considering offering an 1/8 yard just for the 56 count. And we don't do 1/8 yards only because we serge every piece, and to start doing eighth, that just it's going to add more work. I don't know what the shops offer in terms of their cuts. I do believe that they might, but I can't speak for, you know, the cuts that they offer, and their pricing. So I just, you know, I'm considering it for the 56 count because I know that the piece you need is much smaller, and that may make it a little bit more affordable to be able to just, you know, try it out and see. But I'm going to have to look and see what the time concern, or how much time it would take and how much time it would add if we were to put that in. So, you know, if that's something that you really, really would like, specifically for the 56 count, I really don't think we're going to add it to the other thread counts to do an eighth yard, but 56 we might. Okay, I think that's it. So again, thank you so much for supporting the linen shop. It's been a really fun year. I've got some help in the shop now. The shop here at my house. Hang on. So again, anyway, these are the 3 new colors. It's kind of nice to see them all together. This is Salt Ash on the top, Scrimshaw in the middle, and then Pyrite on the bottom. Okay. So yes, I do have, it's a couple days a week. I got somebody that is helping out, in pretty much, other than the computer part, most of the aspects of, linen fulfillment, you know, shipping and all of it, and sort of learning all the different steps. And it's really nice to work with somebody who has the same, attention to idiosyncratic details that I do. And so that's actually been pretty great, but we'll talk about that more another time. So let's do the stitching. We're almost 30 minutes in, and that's far too long. So I'd like to go through, and today, I'm just going to show what I have been working on, what I finished, what I've started, and I would like to start doing videos more regularly again. And so in those, I will likely be sharing about recent retreats that I've gone to, because I did have the opportunity to go to Stitch North earlier this spring. I went to summer school at the Attic, which was a complete surprise. It was a last minute cancellation, and there were a few open seats, and it's convenient from Seattle to Arizona. It's like a commuter flight, and so it's not super expensive to fly down, and I happened to have the time to do it that weekend. So that was an amazing experience. If you ever have an opportunity to go to a retreat given by Evertote or given by the Attic, or Acorns and Threads, where I just was this last weekend, for the Pacific Northwest Stitch Summit, I highly recommend it. It is so much fun to meet people and to see people in person, and just for me personally, it is a very surreal experience to walk around and see someone stitching on fabric that came out of my little shop. That's really, really cool. And I love when people come up and say hello and introduce themselves. And so I tend to be a little introverted, so it's good. I appreciate when people come up and say hi. All right, so I'm going to start with finishes. When I was at, I think it was at Pacific Northwest Stitch Summit last year, I started this little chart by Modern Folk Embroidery. It's called Got the Morbs, and I think it's super cute. I've showed it before, but this was a really nice little piece to work on at retreats, and I have finished it. I like doing just a monochromatic piece when it's something small when I'm at a retreat, so I'm not really worried about color changes or anything else. And so this is Got the Morbs, and I stitched it. It's just on kind of a piece of test fabric. I don't really know what color. This is kind of when I was trying to get to Salt Ash, but it was really hard for me to replicate some of these colors. And then I just used 103, and it is Auvert 103 and number 236. So just kind of a grungy green. So that's finished number 1. Some very fun little stitch. I'm not sure how I'm going to finish it. Next one, and this is also a retreat. I worked on this, started it at Stitch North this year, and then finished it up not too long after I got home. And this is called Chubby Fox. This is by Jeanette Douglas, and it's in a series. There's Chubby Bee, Chubby Bird. They're all very cute and small. So again, I just kind of pulled some Roxy Floss, and I actually edited mine a little bit so that instead of it looking like a fox, it looks like my little dog. And I don't want to say his name because he'll wake up and then bark. So when I did Chubby Bird, which is up here behind me, I put like a little ominous movie quote on it, and it was a movie quote from the movie Aliens, the second one. And that's from an old video that, you know, I won't talk about anyway, but I did the same thing here. So this is my version of Chubby Fox, but it looks more like my little dog. Sorry, the lights are not cooperating very well. And this, what I wrote was, "You should have let me sleep," which is a line from one of the new Star Trek movies, Star Trek Into Darkness, where Benedict Cumberbatch plays Khan, and it's something that he says right before he does something violent. Anyway, so it kind of goes with my little series of ominous movie quote, sci-fi, cute, chubby animals. Anyway, that's my dog. So that one was fun to stitch. Next one, I have been working on this for a couple of years. I absolutely loved it. And this is Anne Grimshaw by the Scarlet Letter. I stitched mine on a piece of 40 count Zweigart. And it's one of their yarn dyed, or one of their, you know, proprietary colors. It's not over dyed. It's just their light mocha or mushroom. I think it might be the same. Light mocha is basically the color. And I used, it took about almost 8 skeins of Roxy Floss, and I used the color Chalkboard. So here's my finish. And that is Anne Grimshaw. She's very big. And I love this Quaker. I think it's so pretty. So when I was at Jacob Palooza, he did a tutorial on how to do an open hem stitch, which is what this is. So a lot of antique samplers were, hopefully this is focusing, but a lot of antique samplers that you buy will have, they'll be finished with an open hem stitch like this. He talked about that a little bit, that sometimes the stitchers would do their hem stitch first, and then they would do their sampler, and that was just so that the edges wouldn't fray, and maybe they only had a certain size fabric. And so sometimes you'll see, you know, an alphabet will run off the end of the linen. We'll have to stitch something underneath, or the name will run long, and it's because they already created their parameters for this. Well, I did mine after I finished, and I still think I'm going to frame it, but I'll mount it on a piece of muslin, sort of wrapped around a foam board. And so Anyway, I loved that one. That was very fun. This is the, he made this available now. It's a PDF download on his website, and he also has a YouTube video that does not have sound, so your computer's not broken if it doesn't have sound, but that's what this is. This is the Modern Folk Embroidery open hem stitch. It's just a tutorial on how to do this, and it's very easy to follow. He's great, and when he shows it on the video, he's essentially showing it as a again, when he shows it on the video, he shows it on a piece of white fabric, and he's using blue thread so that it's very easy to see what he's doing. But you would want to use a thread that matches your project, or at least that's what I did. So modernfolkembroidery.com is where you can download this. I'm not sure if shops are selling this as well, but highly recommend. Speaking of Modern Folk Embroidery, since my last video, this is how long it's been, I started this. This was the 2024 stitch along. No time like the present. And I used a piece of Spindrift, which is my linen, and it's a 40 count Spindrift, and it's the colors that I chose are, the blue is called Yonder, and the green is called Dirty Martini. And then on just a few spots, like you can see the deer, I stitched that in Falu Red, the berries. And there's a few berries up here on the in the border. This is such a beautiful pattern. Like, it's just so appealing. I don't know. Once I started stitching on it, it was really hard to put it down. I had to take a break to do some other stuff, you know, and just get busy fulfilling shop orders, and so didn't have a ton of time to stitch. But then this last week, I just wanted it done. So anyway, lots of people have been stitching this in lots of different colors. Again, I don't know how I'm going to finish it, but I loved it. I love it. Good job, Jacob. As per usual. So those are all my finishes. I didn't have any fully finished anything. So these are some of my works in progress. This is a GGR pattern. It's called MT1810. This is a very large sampler. I'm stitching it on 36 count, and I'm using the called for DMC. And I'm stitching this on a piece of Overcast. Again, it's kind of one of my, and I don't know if I can even fit this all on the camera. It's just the stitching alone is almost 2 feet wide. So I haven't really got a ton more done since the last time that I showed this, but I have worked on it a bit. If you want to see, well, I'm not sure if she showed it, but Nikki Noodle is also stitching this. It's my friend in Australia, and she's much further than I am now. She started it after me, and she's going gangbusters on it, and it's so cool. She's like, I don't remember what the stitch count is. It's many, many stitches. Let's see if I can find it. This is it's kind of one of those Baptist school .518 by 396. Fortunately, I have a Hearthside Craftworks Mark II floor stand, and it's got the extra wide 48-inch back bar that accommodates my 40-inch wide Millennium frame which is what I need to use so that this can sit on it. Now I did a review of that floor stand December, January, that you can watch. I still stand by my recommendation. It's one of the most amazing tools that I have had the pleasure of using, and it's totally changed the speed in which I can stitch. It's more comfortable. I'm not feeling like, you know, sore neck, back injuries kind of things. And so it's available on Evertote. They purchased the company, so Hearthside Craftworks and Evertote, they are literally married. Okay, the next whip is a Mirabilia. This is Winter Queen. I think it's very beautiful. I had barely started it when I showed my last video, and I actually had to tear out part of it. So on this chart, and I can't insert a photo, I would have if I was using my other camera, but I had started, and right at the bottom edge there was it's like maybe 612, or it's more of a kind of a cream color, like a yellow off-white color, and I think it's only used in her hair. But the symbol for this blended floss that was supposed to be where I put that sort of yellow color is a circle, and the circle, like the symbol for the yellow color, is a slightly bigger circle. They are like, it's, I don't know if I can show it to you without cover some of this up, I guess. I don't know. So if you can see right there on 677, which is right there, 677 is a circle, and the blend is right up here, also a circle. So right at the top of my finger, circle, and then little circle. So I took it out because it's like I stitched part of it, and then I'm looking at this and it's like this off-white, and I'm like, that doesn't look like the picture, but the picture is so small. I thought, well, I mean, maybe. Then I started looking at all of these other finished projects, people's finishes on Etsy and Pinterest and all these different, you know, whatever, Instagram, and everybody else's was white, had like a light blue. I just didn't read the chart correctly. So, word to the wise, if you're going to be working on this, check the size of your circles on the symbols. But this is how far I have gotten. I really like stitching on Mirabilias. Kind of have to be in the right mood, but I just love them. They're all on 32 count because you got to have 32 count so that the beads work. This is stitched on my Albarium, so really light, just a little bit off-white. So when I got that, then I kind of got this like queen obsession on all the Mirabilias, and I have more in the hopper that I would like to start. This one I almost finished, but I just ran out of time and I wanted to make this video. So this is Elizabeth Masterton by the Scarlet Letter. It's a stitch in 1838. I love this. I've loved it since the second that I saw it, and I started stitching it almost 2 years ago. And at the time I said, I'm gonna use this piece of fabric that barely accommodates the chart because I really want to learn how to stitch in hand. And then it sat. So I stitched around the whole back stitched edge, and then it just sort of sat. So then I added some fabric to it so that I could put it into a scroll frame. And that fixed it right up. So that's what these pieces are. It's just these are basted on, and then I'll probably end up framing it. But this is Elizabeth Masterton. I used all the called for Auvert Soie Swaat Alger silks. I love it. This color is also a kind of one of the iterations on the way to Salt Ash. So Salt Ash would be a good match for this one if you wanted to stitch it. Shameless plug. Now the one spot, I waited until the very end to do the satin stitches. I want these, let's see if I can get these a little closer. So the satin stitches on the bottom, yeah, because I didn't want those to get crushed. I usually start at the bottom and work my way up, which I did. I just left the satin stitches until the very end. And so I just have that one half of the fence and the little gate post leading up. And then she'll be done. So that's also a reasonably big sampler, but man, it was fun. I really, really, really loved it. Love stitching that. I love that house. Look at that house. Let's look at that house again. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, another whip. This one. This is Stacy Nash, Halloween at Hollyberry Farm. I wanted to stitch this forever, and I finally found the perfect fabric, and I did my own Auvert Soie 103 conversion because I think that calls for overdyed. This piece of fabric is Roxy Floss. It's called French Hen. This is 46 count, and again I'm using my own Auvert Soie 103 conversion. So it's time to pull this one out again. As soon as I finish Elizabeth Masterton, this is going back on the rack. And if you watch Olivia B, who has her Etsy shop called Hillside Rookery, where she sells amazing charts and notions and beautiful silk, mostly MPI, and she'll do little kits sometimes. Behind her is her stitched Halloween at Hollyberry Farm, and I always look at it because I love it. The next one, I talked about before, Peacock Unicorn, a Badger. This one, I started on a piece of arboreal that it was kind of the final landing spot that I ended up at when I finally figured out the formula or the dye combination that I wanted for arboreal. And this is the color, right here, if you see this little tiny like 3x3 stitched edge or stitched square, that's the background color. So this chart is actually full coverage, and as you may know, you stitch the green in the background. And while I wouldn't have minded doing that, it just felt like this would be sort of a fun challenge to figure out a way to make a color where I wouldn't have to stitch the background. But this is a piece of 32 count, so I'm using 2 strands of DMC. This is as far as I have gotten. And while I'm enjoying it and I like the colors, I think I might like to do this on a smaller thread count because it will fit a little bit better in my house. And so I'm considering starting this one over again. So I've kind of put this one on the back burner, but that's what the DMC looks like. Also, because this was one of my very early test pieces, it doesn't have the variegation and the kind of smeary, you know, forest floor modeling that the later pieces of my arboreal have, and I kind of want that. So, but if you're nervous about using green, that might be sort of a solution for you. If you are not wanting to stitch the background, and then I think this last year, Carrie from Roxy Floss and Caroline, Carrie has a green called Pub Crawl, and it's kind of the same idea. So there's a bunch of people doing this stitch along using that linen too. So it's jump on in, the water's fine. This is the 2025. Yes, I'm jumping ahead, but this is the 2025. Is that right? No, it's not. Is it? Baldequin Birdies. Yeah, 2025. Because it didn't say on the front. Normally it does. So, Baldequin Birdies is the 2025 stitch along from Modern Folk Embroidery. And it's beautiful. But I took one look at this cover and I thought, maybe this would be fun to do the reverse. And so on a piece of red cedar, and this is 40 count, I am stitching Baldequin Birdies. I've gotten the first 3 pages, so the lower third of the chart, and I'm stitching this with Roxy Floss Co. Antique Wedding Dress over dyed cotton. So it's a really soft kind of antique white. And I normally don't like stitching white stitches because they show, everything shows up. But because it's a single color and it's not really there's not too much variegation in the floss itself, I'm just stitching all of my, I can stitch a little more consistency if I'm stitching everything, like the bottom leg in one direction across a row and then back the other way. If I'm doing X's, they end up looking a lot messier, and so I've found that this is looking a little more tidy. But I sure like it. It's just like, you know, does he ever miss? Nope. Jacob is quite the designer. So that's pretty. So that's an idea. And again, if you, you know, if you're interested in doing this, what I would do for either the green or the red, because you're going to get it probably faster, is to call one of those 3 shops. Call the Attic, call Acorns and Threads, or call Hobby House and ask if they have red cedar or arboreal in stock if you wanted to try one of these more pigmented colors. I started this one. Is this a start? Yeah, I started this one since my last video, and this is Brenda Gervais, Every Opening Flower. Lots and lots and lots of people have stitched this. I am one of them too, because I just thought it was so pretty, and I need to finish the border. So I've gotten the flowers on the bottom. There's a few more of those I need to complete, and then most of the flowers in that border. So if you look down there underneath the Z, you can see that there's a cute little flower on that border, and those all need to be put in around the edges. So I used some of the called for, and then I substituted a few because I wanted it to look a little bit more like the image on the front of the chart. And this is another piece of test linen. This is close to what pyrite looks like, but not exactly. So I don't want to false advertise, but this was just like one of those test colors that, you know, I'm like, well, that's pretty, and then I tried to replicate it, and it did not translate to a larger volume of fabric being put in the same container. I got a little start on this. So Reflet de Soie, this is Louisa Barney, 1892. That's the one with the cow. I'm stitching this on, I think this might be 40 count, and this is 40 count overcast. And I just have those bottom lines. Very, very paltry start. And I am going to stitch the black. Like if you look around the edge on the bottom, there are those stars, and there's a black line, which probably was maybe the fabric itself. They are charted, so I went ahead and I'm doing those black lines. Not everybody that I've seen stitching this is doing the same thing. But I am. And I think am I doing this with 103s? I don't know. I'll have to go back and look. I didn't pull the threads for this, and it's been a while since I've worked on that. Almost done. I started Ann Jones. This is again by the Scarlet Letter. I absolutely love this chart. I think it's so weird. I like that goose. There's two of them. I love the colors on it. Those orange houses are cool. It's just an unusual chart, and I started that on a piece of Maple Bar. And I'm using, I know this one, I'm using Au Ver à Soie 100, excuse me, Soie d'Alger. Now I am doing this on 36 count. I find that I like using Soie d'Alger silk on 36 count, not on 40 count. I'll show you why in just a second, but this is where I'm at with that one. So I got those cows, some flowers, bottom border, the cartouche with her name is started, and those are like little sawtooth satin stitches, which is kind of cute. It's fun. But I just think that Soie d'Alger sits more nicely when it's got more space, like it does on a 36 count. When it's too tight in there, it just ends up being kind of, it feels too crowded. So that's why I like using 103s or a single strand of DMC on 40 count. But my favorite is 46 count with 103s. That's my all-time absolute favorite. Okay, so, and this is why. So this is Yvonne Leclerc, who is also, this is also a Reflet de Soie, or a, yeah, Reflet de Soie chart. Very dense, very beautiful. And I had the silk for this, and then I started it on a piece of 40 count. And it's so dense that I kind of got to this point. It's basted onto these bars, and so I'm not going to take the bars off. But I got to this point, and it's pretty, but this was not fun to stitch. It's just so crammed in there. That little dog, and because there's so many motifs that are almost all full coverage, I don't know that I want to struggle through the rest of the project having to deal with that. So again, this one's kind of backburnered. So this one and my Peacock Unicorn Badger are kind of, they're in timeout just until I decide. And I could take this and make a little cute pin pillow or something. It's not going to go to waste, but I just think when you've got something that's got that many stitches and that many color changes, I would rather bump out the fabric size and use 36 count. And I think it would look much nicer, and it would be a more enjoyable process to stitch. So, and I can do that. The last two, they're just little teeny starts that I started this one over the weekend at Pacific Northwest Stitch Summit. This is a Cardamom Pins. Her name is Carmen. She has a Floss 2 video. She's so great. She pronounces this designer, Simone, and I'm not going to be able to say it correctly. Swadide? Idie? Swadide. Swadide? Nailed it. AH1838. And the reason I love this chart is because it reminds me a lot of the Rosebush Sampler by Jacob. So I think that these would be very pretty hanging next to each other. So I actually did a really quick DMC to 103s conversion, which I'm not gonna, I'll show you that next time. But this is just a little start that I got when I was at the retreat. So I think it's gonna be pretty. This is on 46 count overcast. This is also why I don't like stitching in a hoop, which I kind of have to do when I'm sitting at a table, because no matter how hard you iron something, I feel like it just always stays like that. Always get a hoop mark. And then the last thing I've got to show today is it's a JBW Designs. I started this at summer school, again, just something. And I thought it was actually pretty small. It's not. It's got a lot of stitches, but it's very pretty. It's got two different, you know, when you look at it closely, it's got little roses on it, little leaves, but it's two colors. So I chose two Tudor Silk colors. And I'm using Oatmeal is one, and Antique Dark Gray is the other. And this is actually the other half of that little piece of 46 count. So the lighter color, the Oatmeal, gets kind of ghosty on this, but I'm okay with that. I think it's really pretty, and it's a pretty alphabet, so probably have this one at retreats for a while as well, just because it's an easy thing to work on. Okay, we're at 102, and if I just upload this, I think that might be good. So there, again, will be no editing, so I apologize if I rambled or ummed or whatever, or hopefully by my next video, which I hope will not be too terribly long from now, we'll be able to get back to our comfortable other video setup where I'm a little more, I don't know, able to actually edit. But I really, again, thanks for bearing with me, because I really wanted to do this today and not have to wait. So, yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, it was really nice to be able to pull this together and to see all the things that I've been working on this last year, in addition to, you know, just life and processing and sort of post-fire department existence, which has been a transition for sure. And but I'm very grateful to all of you for being so supportive and such a great community, and for being enthusiastic about Cedar River Linen, and for always being just good friends. So I hope you're all well. I've been watching, there are a few people, my friend Sean Parrington from Periwinkle Stitches. Everybody has seen her, I'm sure, but she's got some beautiful, beautiful projects. I think there's a new floss tuber from Scotland. His name is Stuarts and Stitches. Been watching his videos. My friend Zan, her channel is Crazy Band Lady Stitches. She sat with me at our table at Stitch North, and she was my roommate. And we need to get her to 2,000 subscribers. She's been sitting at around 1,700 for a little too long, and I would love to see her get a little boost in her numbers. because she is literally one of the kindest people that I know. And so she deserves it. And she just started, she just announced on Instagram that she is now renting a little booth in an antique mall. And so she's got her own little space and her photos are great. And so go follow her on Instagram as well. And so yeah, hopefully I will see all of you in the near future. And I will be going to the Hobby House retreat. Great British Sampler Weekend comes to America, so I'm looking forward to that. I hope that I can make maybe a video before then, but realistically, I'm not going to promise anything, so it's likely going to be after that. I think I would leave for that. I think it's on October 9th. And then after that, I think things will kind of calm down just a teeny bit. So I may have a little more time to come back and talk about some other stuff and some charts that I've picked up and things I want to work on in the future. So anyway, thanks for watching, and be safe out there and be nice to each other. Have a happy day.